evening, everyone. This is the City Council work session on Monday, March 23rd, 2026, at 6 p.m. This meeting will come to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Kimberly Shaw Elliott.
Present.
Councilmember Todd Harper.
Present.
Councilmember Jody Shirley. Here. Councilmember Anders Wellings.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Present.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
City Attorney Tom Trask.
Here.
All right, thank you, Kathy. We'll just roll right into our first item on the agenda, which is a discussion from Chief Grimes of the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. We can watch you there. I'm probably bigger on the screen. Thanks for having me. I think there was really two reasons for me to be here tonight. Was one, we talked about the city summit and the information that I gave to all the cities, and I just think it's valuable and relevant. And then the other is the discussion about our northern move and the house, how that is all going. So let me roll right into it. I'm going to try to do it in a short period of time, less than 10 minutes, but we're part of an amazing system, fire and EMS. Like and I sent an article recently to one of the citizens, Ms. Murphy, who asked about the system and how the trucks respond from inside and outside. I would ask, maybe you can send that to all the council members. I think it's a great overview of how the system works and how it all works together. It seems like we're a 75 station system with fire and EMS, and it all works as one. It's really not. But it's divided into 18 pieces of a pie that all works together as a pie, and we're a piece of that. And we're a special independent district. And so I wanted to just talk a little bit about that and what that means for you. Real quick, I'm just going to talk about, I wanted to say I have one of my fire commissioners here. We, like you, are have an elected board of government. We impose a tax, and that's one of our commissioners, Chief Wilfong over there, my lovely wife, Zella. A little bit about our history, funding, current state, system design approach, the problem, the solution. I promise it'll go fast. I'll go faster than they normally do. So we've been around since 1951. If you can see on the map, you can see the white area. That's our district, what we cover. So we cover Bel Air Shore, Bel Air Beach, Indian Rocks Beach, Indian Shore, and a piece of the mainland. We're a single function government entity, so we only worry about your fire and EMS, and we think we're the most cost effective, and I'll prove that to you in a minute, approach to this. It's regional. We have a local engaged board. You can see my board member here tonight. We're really your fire department. And I was talking to the city manager of the Indian Rocks Beach, and he's like, he came from a city that had a fire department. He's like, I'm so glad that I don't have a fire department anymore, but I do. Like, I have one that serves me, but I don't have to worry about firemen salaries and everything else. So, and we're your advocates. So when I said we're the most cost effective, so this slide we put together, the way we're funded is we impose tax, and part of it is a non-ad valorem tax, which is per household. So per household, it's a $360 flat fee. That's the way it's been since 1951. About 3 years ago, as you can imagine, the problem with a flat fee is it never keeps up with inflation. So you had stations falling down, salaries that were so low you couldn't attract and retain people. So the citizens voted to impose a 0.67 mil, a small mil tax on top of that. I was on the outside at the time, and I was thinking to myself, there's no way that a tax base is going to vote to tax themselves, right? Like, there's no way this fire department is going to survive. I was working at the county, I really thought that the fire district would go away and it would be absorbed by the Seminole Dependent District, right? Now that I'm here and I understand the finances, I wanted to compare what you pay us as an independent fire district, and then what you would pay if you were part of the Seminole district, or, because they're all ad valorem based. So you can see Bel Air Beach here, average taxable value. The average payment for the fire department per household is $822 in our system. The higher your house goes in value, the more cost effective it becomes, because our millage rate is so low. The millage rate, being small, does what Governor DeSantis, I know, he doesn't like ad valorem because it outpaces inflation. But by having that small millage rate, it allows us to sort of keep up with inflation without outpacing it. So the larger in value you go, the more, and you'll see that if you compare Bel Air Shore. So if you were in the Seminole district, it's a 1.8 mil, you'd be paying $419 more, or the Largo district, $295, Clearwater district, $122 more. So you can see where if you have a higher home value, like the average value in Bel Air Shore, they're paying $3,400 a household. If they were part of the Seminole district, they'd be paying $8,000. So now I understood why we almost had 100% vote for the ad valorem and to keep the fire department when we had the vote, right? So, and we're very cost sensitive, about spending the taxpayers' dollars. Our board, that's all they think about. Fire, and that's all the things they have to weigh, is how do we provide great service. So EMS funding is also on top of that. It's a little bit different. So this slide shows the EMS fund. We basically get, so the EMS in Pinellas County taxes a 0.8 mil, or 0.80 mil, basically. So from our district, the county gets about $4.9 million to provide EMS. And then they give it back to us in the form of seats. They give us paramedic positions. And today, those paramedic positions cost about $800,000 a position. But so we give about $4.9 million. We get back from that fund about $2.9 million. So we're contributing about $2 million to the betterment of the system. And it's great. It's a great system. There's other things that have to be paid for. We are requesting enhancements this year, which I'm going to talk about, and why I want you to be educated, because you may get asked about it. But we are asking for enhancements that bring us to 4.4 million. So instead of a 59% impact, what we're providing, it gets us to 89%, because the county says, hey, there's some cities that are donors, there's some cities that are givers, but we think almost 50% is too much of a giver, and 89% is probably a little more reasonable, especially when you have areas in our district that can't meet the county minimum benchmarks for response times. So we don't have a funding problem. We have a deployment problem when we talk about our problem, which is response times. So the county has a 7.5 minute benchmark that we should be able to get to scenes. Barrier Islands have trouble getting there because we have limited access. We also have high value communities, and we're not meeting the standard. This is a known solvable gap, and it's not a remote area challenge. The county would say to me, well, people that live in remote areas, they know they're going to have long response times. But to me, this isn't a remote area problem. This is a Barrier Island problem. And so, and I think it's pretty solvable. So real quick, system design. So you can see my chart. I don't have a pointer, but the 0% at the top, if you don't have a fire station and can get to you in 7.5 minutes, you have 0% coverage. If you have one fire station, you have 70% coverage, because that fire station is going to be on other calls, out for maintenance, out for training, right, 30% of the time. In order to get really good coverage, you got to have overlapping circles or overlapping coverage areas. So in the real world, obviously quicker is better. People are like, well, how does it really matter, fire or EMS? In EMS, every minute, your chances of survival drop by 10%. So for cardiac arrest, if you can get somebody that's having a cardiac arrest right in front of you, chances of survival is almost 100%. When if you wait 10 minutes, it's 0. Same is true for stroke, trauma, cardiac arrest, and as well as now sepsis, like when somebody's got a severe infection. This is a 2009 study that was done that showed areas of the county that have good coverage, green, yellow, red, right? You can get the outcome there. And this was a known gap in 2009, this area. extra coverage, it's not all how many calls you have, it's justified because of barrier islands. It's also difficult on barrier islands because of the cost of land. We've talked about that and how, when we're trying to buy property or place stations. Nowadays, I will say that we're in an amazing position because we have computer technology now and we have call volume that we can really predict, and we're sort of building now, Suncoast is building this department and these stations to where they serve people the best. In the past, it was like, well, there's the district, let's put a dot in the middle of it. That was the science that went behind it. Now we have real science, and now we're trying to figure out how we get everybody care under the benchmark. So that was from the same 2009 study. Here's the problem. So the map on the right is a computer model of if the response times can ever be met by anybody, and the answer is no. And then the map on the right is actual calls that happen, and whether the benchmarks were met. So it's pretty obvious what's happening and what's been happening. So remember the circles? This is where we get back to the circles. If you follow the circles up the beach, and then check out, Bel Air Beach, you see that there's just not adequate, there's no circle. So people say to me, like, one of the citizens that wrote, hey, why can't Clearwater come from 44? Why can't Largo come from, those are on there. They just can't make it in time. They're just not close enough, is the bottom line. So, in about a year from now, they've broken ground already. They're opening the Reddington Beach Station, which you can see the circle down there in the south where you have overlapping coverage. So the good news is for the system is they're going to get overlapping coverage, so they'll get a higher percentage of coverage. But what it really enables, and that's awesome, what it really enables us to do is do what I'm proposing, or what I'm going to talk to you guys about. So we asked the county, we said, do a study on where's the best place for fire stations or EMS stations. And so they provided us this study, and it shows, and we used Bel Air. Actually, Bel Air was the number one spot for the north, but it showed that a 3-station, because we asked the legitimate question, do we need 3 stations? Or can we get away with, or do we need 4? Or can we get away with 2? Like, we weren't saying place 4 stations, right? And so this is what it came up with. We really think the end configuration is probably going to be 4 stations with a part-time station in the middle. So, in other words, we'll try to save some cost in the middle because our problem is not at 3 in the morning, because, well, even 8 at night, they roll up the sidewalks here, right? Like literally, we do not have a traffic problem at 8 o'clock at night. We have a traffic problem at 3 in the afternoon or each time. And so we envision that we'll probably try to do something called peak load staffing and staff that middle station during peak time. But that's a future discussion. For now, to serve our community, those are the 3 places that needs to be. Whoops. I did something new. All right. Yeah, so here's the solution. You can see that Reddington Beach Station allowed us to push the southern station north. So you see a new white dot, and then you see that we were able to then add the station up here, which connects all the dots. And then there's the same computer modeling that we did before, and guess what? There's no red here. Like we're able to get to citizens in Bel Air Beach in under 7.5 minutes. So it's sort of a system design approach, and this is what we're advocating for. So we're trying to align basically where we put the stations. So we're asking this year, and the mayor's on the MSAC board, so you're going to see this exact same presentation. Maybe you can help me refine it a little bit so it resonates to the board. But we're going to add we're asking to add a paramedic up here in the north, and we're also asking to add a position to staff a rescue, and I'll tell you about that in a second. So those are our asks for funding increases. That's why our funding from the EMS fund goes from 2.9 million to 4.2 million. So Station 75 is what we're calling this one. This one is up here in the North Indian Rocks Beach, or speaking of the middle, or Bel Air Beach. You can see, again, it's just re-highlighting the problem that you couldn't get coverage before, and by putting the station up here, it's green. So we've committed, like I've been in front of you several times, to add a station up here in the north area. I briefly mentioned rescue, and so we're asking to staff a rescue. When we were coming out here to this meeting, I was told, hey, Sunstar, that was the ambulance that just went by, Sunstar wasn't available the other day, and we had a really sick patient. And we don't have a rescue out here. And so what happens when Sunstar is not available, the fire rescue normally has a rescue and can transport the patient. And we couldn't. And so we dialed up and we told the system to give us a rescue. So a rescue is a fire vehicle and an ambulance is the ambulance. So there were no ambulances available. We asked for a rescue because most departments have a rescue. The rescue that got assigned to us was in Pinellas Park. So if you can imagine, in Bel Air Beach needing a rescue, and Sunstar is not available, your fire department could take care of you with their paramedic, they're gonna ride in anyway, but that rescue needed to come from Pinellas Park. It just doesn't make any sense. This is the county's map of the 2 areas that are undercover, the green ones, actually, and that are planned for the future. So they bought us a rescue truck, we have the truck, we're staffing it when we can. We just don't have it staffed full-time, and we're asking the county to staff us, to give us the staffing for that full-time. So what we're asking the county for is a new ALS position for this station and a rescue. And I wanted to say, this thing ended. I guess that's it. So what we've been talking to the cities about is we've been asking, because we asked the city to help us with a resolution of support for what we're asking for. One is, the county's looking at the Tiki Garden property for that south move. They have the land there, we've identified it, they gave us a couple items to meet, maintain 120 parking places and make sure there's no storm runoff issues. And we met those. And so now it's going to the city or the county administrator, the assistant county administrator, and then in front of the county commission. So we've asked all of our cities to help support that. But what I was hoping my sort of presentation on system design would do today is help us get an all-in alignment that one change even to the south of our system affects the entire system. By being able to move a station north, we're able to move this station north and have adequate coverage for our system. So basically one thing that we do that benefits one city benefits them all. So the assistant county administrator, I think, asked, because Bel Air, Shore, and actually Indian Shores have done the resolution so far, and he saw them on the agenda, and he's like, well, do the city council members really understand what they're talking about? And so this is why I want to help make sure that you understand what we're all trying to do with system design here, and helping making sure that our citizens are covered. When I say your citizens, I always think it's ours, like they're the same citizens. The county said we may have to buy the property at the Tiki Gardens, and I was like, wait a minute. You're gonna have our citizens pay us for the property? It makes no sense. So anyway, we're having those discussions now, and I appreciate your support on that. And then I know the mayor again is on MSAC, but we may ask for another resolution if we need it, but I don't think we're going to need it for the ALS, for the paramedic position up here. Because the worst case scenario that could happen is we could add a fire truck up here and we not get funding for a paramedic. And then 80% of our calls are EMS. Then we're fixing, 20% of our calls we're not fixing to 80%. So we're putting the infrastructure in, and which goes to sort of the station up here too. We wanted to quickly talk about the house, and I know maybe I can jump to that next. So we bought a house so we had purchased property, if you recall, at the Church of the Isles in the very north of Indian Rocks Beach. As we were going through this, it was your idea that sparked it. Our thing is we want to be responsible to the taxpayer, and I'm on my soapbox about, they told us it was going to cost $10 million to build a fire station on that piece of property. $10 million, $1,000 a square foot. The most expensive house across the street is $800 a square foot. It's like, it makes no sense at a fire station so 3 guys can sleep. would be $1,000 a square foot. So the idea of the house here sparked the idea, and we found a house adjacent to our property at Church of the Isles, and we purchased it. We closed on it last week, and we're going to rehab that. And so that was our, as we were working both parallel paths, that was our other path. That was our permanent solution, but we even bettered our permanent solution. We made it a solution that we're not going to spend $10 million there. We're going to be able to occupy that house and have a fire station for less than $3 million. So it's basically a $7 million tax savings to all of our taxpayers, which we love. And so I guess I'll leave it with you. Do you have any questions? Or?
So you're not interested in Cedar Avenue then?
We're going to withdraw our request,
Okay.
officially withdraw our request for Cedar Avenue. Yes.
Councilman, any questions or comments?
I have a couple questions. Well, thank you for clarifying the Cedar Avenue, because that was the big
Would
question.
you,
Oh, I'm sorry, that was a big question that came up. But the other question I had, you were discussing that Bel Air Shores and Indian Shores are doing a resolution. Expound a little bit on the resolution that you're asking for, because I'm not sure that I followed that.
So we asked our cities to a resolution of support for the county to support our initiative to occupy the Tiki Gardens property. And we envisioned another resolution of support if we needed it for these positions. But so I think I sent Kyle a draft resolution of support. Indian Rocks is voting on their April meeting. They're going to vote on it, and it's just a resolution supporting. And to the Assistant County Administrator's point, I want to make sure you're informed on what that means, and it means that yes, because he would say, well, what does Bel Air Beach care about Tiki Gardens, right? Like it's not, but it matters. It matters to us, and so if he ever asks, I want.
Yeah, it moves our support up the beach and gives
Right,
us
it helps
additional
our
support.
system
Right.
at the beach, so yes.
And we're prepared with that resolution for the April meeting.
So, okay. And all it is doing is showing our support to the district for these
It's basically asking the county and the district to work together on the Tiki Gardens project.
And then also a position for EMS up here? I mean,
Hey,
is that
I
part
got
of
a second one written,
it? Okay,
but I actually need to, since the EMS funding is county and I'm just navigating the politics there, so if I need the support, I will come back and ask you for that as well. There's a board called MZAC, which the mayor is actually on. That's a citizen board, and I do think, there we can make the point. I think the mayor can and others that, we're adding a fire station. Every fire station in the county has a funded position, so I just don't think we'll need it.
okay.
Other questions or comments? Yes.
When do you think the new house will be operational with the equipment and staff?
If you talk to my operations people, it'll be by next January. But I'm a sales guy, you see by background, so we're going to operate it by July.
Okay.
Probably, into the summer. Give me that much flexibility. Certainly by October 1st, which is the beginning of the budget year.
Okay.
Other questions or comments?
Okay.
I have a quick question.
No, I was just sarcastic.
Okay.
So I just have a quick clarification question. So what I'm hearing is we are looking for support for the department on their ventures south of here, but they are withdrawing all engagement as far as doing anything inside of Bel Air Beach. Is that the correct understanding?
This isn't about housing, this is about asking the county for usage of Tiki Gardens.
Got that. And then we are withdrawing the consideration of the Cedar property, and that will become a city property to do what we choose to do with.
That's what it sounds like to me, if that's the case.
Yes, we're withdrawing our request.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, Chief, I would like to commend you and the entire district for putting on your thinking caps and figuring out how to put our residents in this area, their minds at ease, and coming up with a very creative solution. Nice job. We're excited. Can't wait to get the better protection. And it's awesome. So, any other questions or comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure there will be no problem passing that resolution.
Thank you. Yeah, I can come to that if you need more questions.
All right. Thanks, sir. All right, now we're at item number 2, which is the procurement code. Attorney Eschenfelder, did I get that right? Welcome, sir.
I'm going to sit up near you, or?
Why don't you just sort of sit right here, Rob? I'll move back.
No, you don't have to say
Thank you,
yourself.
guys. Thanks for coming. It was nice.
Thank you.
We'll leave it to you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, Robert Eschenfelder with Trastanio, and talked with your manager some months ago about he felt that it was time to do a refresh of your procurement code. And as luck would have it, of the many things I specialize in my firm, procurement is one of them. And so Mr. Trask asked me to work with the manager on producing what I think you all have before you and have had the opportunity to review. And so I don't know, do you want to go section by section, or how do you want to go through it? Or just want to ask questions if you have questions?
Well, first off, has everyone read through the ordinance? And okay, so why don't we do an overview? Why don't you present us with an overview of the ordinance and what key points are changing, and then we'll turn it into a discussion.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So in terms of changing, as you all see from back in the back of the ordinance where we do the strike through, your current procurement code is pretty darn small. I mean, it really just deals with bids and only bids, and so and there's a section on procuring real property, which I just pulled over into the new code. So there's not really much going away. But I feel, and every time I work with one of our municipal clients on a procurement code, you know, I feel that even if we sometimes aren't going to use something like, for instance, debarment or whatever, that it's always helpful to have it there ready to go, because there could come a day, and if you don't have it in your code legally, you can't use it. So that's why it's somewhat longer. But on page 2, it just starts with what the purpose of the procurement division is, and what it applies to. Just to be clear, it doesn't apply to things like, you know, if you get a grant or whatever. Then there's section 2-3 definitions. These are all pretty straightforward, unless you have any questions on those. Section 2-4 is exemptions, and so sometimes my elected officials, you know, they're like, well, why do we exempt anything? And so, you know, walking you through that, and hopefully if you've read it, you know, you kind of got the idea. A lot of these things it doesn't really make sense to competitively procure, because either they're coming from a single source like your utilities. I mean, your utilities are your utilities. There's no sense in procuring those. Grants or gifts, nonprofit funding agreements, insurance policies, a lot of these things you can go out and solicit, but sometimes the market is very confined in what you're going to be able to do, and so that's why these list of exemptions are on there. Things like, for instance, dues for employee memberships, lobbyist service, legal services. Those are sort of things that you want to pick the company or the entity for the quality of that company or entity, and not, you know, go out and do a low bid or whatever. And with all of these, by the way, you can, and that's the little paragraph down the end, there's nothing that prohibits council to say, you know, I still want to go out and do this. Fine, then you just give that direction and the manager will go out. But day in and day out, if we have to get, you know, title extracts or certified public accountants or whatnot, we're just going to go out and do that. So if there's no questions on the exemption list, then we get to 2-5. And 2-5 is a bit of a departure from your current code. I think your manager is authorized up to $25,000. And so what I'm presenting to you here, first of all, we need to deal with the categories of what level of work your government needs to do to procure. And so I've broken it down into Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3. So Category 1 is up to $20,000. And for that, doing a competition really doesn't seem to be cost effective. $20,000 just isn't what it used to be. And so, again, even in that, if the manager feels like, okay, well, I still want to call around and get quotes, he could do that. He could instruct his staff to do that, but it's not legally required under the code as I've drafted it. Category 2, which is 20 up to 74,999, that is the intermediate category of procurement, and there the manager will be obligated to get 3 quotes, at least 3 quotes. And that's important, because at that spend, you do want your taxpayers to understand that you're going out there and trying to find, who can provide these. But I will tell you, just if you think to yourself, well, geez, Rob, why don't you just go do an RFP or invitation to bid? At that low amount, you're probably not going to get a lot of companies to be hunting around on the electronic platforms out there for a job for $70,000. So what the manager will have to do, or whoever he delegates to do, is we have to call around and get those quotes. We have to identify the providers of those goods or those services and call and say, here's what we want, here's the specification, please give us your written quote. And then we get those, and then we pick what is the best deal for the city.
So then you're saying we're going to solicit the contractor?
We're going to solicit whatever the vendor is, be it a construction contractor or...
I'm just saying, the way this is written, you were looking for 3 contractors if we can award it.
3 quotes, yes.
3 quotes, I'm sorry. So 2 people, one person puts a quote in, we have to solicit 2 others?
Mm-hmm. You have to try to get 3 quotes.
Yeah, just said you had to try. If it's over
Yeah, so you have to go through the blue book and pull up contractors and whatever.
Yeah, like let's say, for instance, you need an air conditioning changeout. It's a good example. That's probably going to be in that middle category there, because it's a large building.
How many calls, just to make this quick, how many calls do we have to make if we only get 1?
You just have to make a good faith effort. And so
I love the ball.
well, so look, it's hard to say you must try to call at least 10 people because it's going to depend on the market, right? So, air conditioning companies, this is Florida. We got a lot of them. So, there the manager's going to be on the phone because he knows he can go down the line and probably get 3 quotes. If it is a supplier of, I don't know, I can't think of it right off the top of my head. Pardon me?
They're going installing the markers out on the beach. It's tough to find a contractor.
Exactly. That's a very limited, marketplace, and so there may only be 3, 4, 5 providers in the greater Tampa Bay region that he can reach out to. So to say, well, I made 5 calls, that may not be enough work, or it may be a lot of work, just depending on what the market is. So I think, to extend, you have to trust your manager to apply this code in a reasonable way. But what the law is going to want to see, what I will want to see, is just that the manager can raise his right hand and testify, I tried to get at least 3 quotes, because that is what my code says I have to do. And he would document that. He would say, tried calling this company, wouldn't quote. Tried calling this company, wouldn't quote. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If we get 1 quote, go with that company.
Yeah.
So category 3, this is your formal procurement. This is what you all are used to hearing about. Invitation to bid, if it's a price-based quote. That's like normally if we're going to build something, that's what we would do. But there's request for proposals, invitation to negotiate, so it all just depends on what kind of commodities or service you're buying. But you have to, the key here is it has to be a formal solicitation. So we would have to put together the RFP or the ITB or whatnot, and our offices work with the manager, and he's got pretty good models and templates for those things. And we use online platform
Yes.
here in the city, right?
Demand Star now.
Yeah, Demand Star. And so y'all may or may not be familiar with that. That's really good. There's numerous platforms like it. But you put it out there and you assign commodity codes to it. And on the flip side of that, the vending community has signed up to receive any posted solicitation that falls within their commodity codes that they do. So if it's air conditioning, that's going to be a commodity code. So he puts that out there as a formal invitation to bid. All the air conditioning companies, probably in Florida, that are signed up to Demand Star are going to instantly get that pushed to their email, and their intake people who are looking for new business will pull it down and decide, okay, is this something that we want to put in a bid for? That's how that process works. Any questions so far? Okay, so moving in then, we're on page 10. So this is still 2-5. And so after category 3, we describe that category, and then we go into a large subsection B. The city manager is authorized to approve contracts not exceeding $75,000 to be paid from available funds budgeted by the city council without further action of the council. So this is, if you're asking about change, this is the most significant change to your current policy, because again, he's currently at 25 with his signature alone. What I'm proposing is 75. And again, I understand that sounds like a lot of money, but many of our clients are moving towards it. Last year, I'm village attorney for the Village of Estero, and that we picked 75 as well. And it's a good balance in terms of him being able to quickly get procurements done and not having to wait and come back to a council meeting for a $52,000 contract, but key here is that the money that's to be spent is only out of budgeted money that this council has already budgeted and said, we agree this year we're going to put this much money into this line item, this much money into this line item. So if you do that, that's sort of your role as the appropriator, and then it's up to him to spend it day in and day out. But if it goes over 75, then of course that's sort of a tripwire that, for political reasons and so forth, and because it starts to be a lot of money, it would be brought back to you. Unless it's an emergency. If it's an emergency, he would have the authority to go ahead and make that spend and then just bring it back to you for ratification after the emergency passes. So is there any discussion or question or concern on that 75 number? We should probably talk it out.
The only comment that I have on that is, as a council, we establish a budget and we approve it and vote on it. We pass the budget, and then it's passed off to the city manager to actually act on it. One thing that I always hate the council getting in the weeds on is selecting vendors, especially on a small scale like this. So I think it's a perfectly fine idea. I was afraid whenever I first read it that 75,000, wow, how can you chew up our budget that quick? But actually, it's already budgeted for, so it makes perfect sense. Any comments on that?
I think it's very well written.
Yeah, I like the clarity. It's a lot more clarity.
So then moving on to 2-6, minimum solicitation requirements. I put this in here mostly to guide our staff. And, in my experience, and I started sort of doing procurement stuff in 2009 when I was with Manatee County. And one of the things that I saw that really made a procurement fail and a solicitation fail was staff's not doing a good job up front with putting into their solicitation, their invitation to bid, their request for proposal, all of the stuff that the vending community needs to know. What is our scope of service? What do we really need? And then the response would come in from the vending community after they put it out there on the street, and management would be like, oh, this isn't what I need at all. These people aren't qualified. And then I look at the minimum qualification section, and they didn't put any minimum qualifications. Well, as a lawyer, then I'm going to say, well, how are you going to declare these people to be non-responsive or not responsible, and thus throw away their their response because they're not minimally qualified if you didn't put in your solicitation what their minimum qualifications are. Likewise, I also, put in here, y'all read, to try to stay away from calling out brand names. And it's for some reason, especially the fellows that work in public works and pumps and motors and stuff, they like their brand of pumps and motors, and so they want to put in there, it must be a whatever or whatever. Why must it be that? Why don't you write it this way? Must have so many horsepower. Must have this amount of warranty. Call out the performance specifications of it. We'll see what the marketplace has, because there may be competitors that have a better priced product that will perform just as well as what you've been working with for the past 10 years. So again, I think Bel Air Beach already does a pretty good job of that, but that's why that section is put there. 2-7, cancellation of solicitations. You're going to find this in every comprehensive procurement code, just because whenever you do cancel, the courts, and sometimes the canceling does get brought into court if it's a large dollar solicitation, and some vendor is out there and they've spent $10,000 or whatever putting together a comprehensive proposal for us with all kind of lovely displays that they're going to come and show council, only to then have council or the city pull the plug. And so they will go to court and say, why did you do that? So it's always good just to have it right there in your code saying, look, we reserve the right at any time for any reason to pull the plug on this solicitation. 2-8 deals with source selection. It just basically calls out all of the different things that we can do, the different tools in our toolbox, competitive sealed bids, requests for proposals, requests for qualifications, piggybacking, cooperative purchase. There's just a lot of different things that we can use. Matter of fact, before the meeting started, I was talking with the manager about the possibility of doing a piggyback contract for a service that you guys need. So, construction contracts, 2-9. So I put this in there because there's some Florida statutes that deal with construction when public agencies do construction that are specific and unique to construction. And I just wanted to live in our code because it's easy for staff to have a one-stop shop. Instead of going to the statute and going to the code, it's right what you need to know and be alert to in terms of advertising and what your threshold is. It's right there in 2-9. The same thing with 2-10. You all may be familiar with the concept called design building, where you hire one entity to both design the structure and build it. The statute there requires that your code have a variety of things, including the process for selection. And so that's why that's in 2-10. Moving over to page 15 of the draft ordinance, up at the top is 2-11, waiver of competition. And so here we say that where not otherwise prohibited by law, the City Council is authorized to provide for the limited or complete waiver of competitive source selection policies and procedures upon determining that the likely non-speculative cost of competitive purchasing would exceed any potential savings and benefit to the city, or upon determination that the acquisition of the goods or services should be provided by a unique source or provider based upon particular skills or expertise. So this really isn't sole source. Sole source really means there's only one company that can give us what we need. This is more that your manager is looking at the marketplace, and the manager is looking at the work and time that staff is going to have to put into doing a solicitation, and says to himself, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, to coin that phrase. So he can come to you and say, guys, I would like you to authorize me to waive competition. One example of this, I've been working with Oldsmar. You all know Oldsmar. They have a BMX track, and they've signed some agreement with the American Bicycle Association where they only allow a certain small couple of 3 or 4 vendors to work on a BMX certified track. To me, it's a bunch of hills and dirt, but this is serious business to those who are in that sport. So, that's sort of an example where you can say, look, the manager already knows I'm going to have at best 2 or 3 companies that are going to respond. Let me, instead of putting together, this whole detailed invitation to bid, let me just call these two providers and say, here's what we need our BMX track refurbished, what can you do for us, that kind of thing. So that's sort of when that would be used. It would be rarely used because our default on behalf of our residents, our taxpayers, is competition. You know, we want to go out there and we want to get the best price because people pay their tax dollars and don't want them wasted. But there's just settings where it doesn't make any sense, and we are saying we're wasting tax dollars by doing all of this competitive stuff that we know isn't going to generate a response. That's 211. 2-12, procuring certain professional services. This really is the CCNA, the Construction Competitive Contractor Negotiation Act. It deals with hiring architect, engineers, those sorts of folks, and so that section is just there to sort of tell you what the statutory obligation is. Those must be solicited competitively because the legislature has told us if we hire an architect or an engineer, we've got to go out for an RFP. So then 2-13, this is where I deal with sole source procurement. In sole source procurement, as it says right there, is where it's only available from a single source. A quick example is when I was with Manatee County, we had our utilities department. They went to some conference. The conference was like, oh, here's this fancy water treatment system that will be fantastic for you. So the county purchased it. Well, then years in, the county unpleasantly determined that this company was a French company and the filters to make the system work needed to be replaced every year. And this French company was the only company in the world that made these filters that had to be bought. So that's a primary example of sole source. And so even though it was a lot of money to buy these filters, industrial filters, you're not going to go out. But what we do here, just to make sure that everyone is kept honest, if you read in there, is if we think this is sole source, we post it for 5 business days. And if the vending community, anyone else out there is saying, well, wait a minute, we sell that same product too at a lower price or whatever, we're giving them an opportunity to step forward and alert us to that and correct us that we're wrong.
Patent ran out or something.
Exactly, Pat, very good, patent ran out. 2-14, competitive procurement or cooperative procurement and piggybacking. So y'all may or may not be familiar, but there are certain entities out there, they're called cooperative purchasing entities, where they have organized themselves to help a bunch of small government entities to get commodities or services without having to do their own individual competition. And so sometimes we will find something we need that is under a cooperative procurement contract already. And since it's already been competed, then we can just go out and use that as opposed to doing our own solicitation. Similar in theme is piggybacking, where one of our sister local governments has gone out and procured services, be it building department services or whatever it is that they, painting or whatever it could be. And so if that contract is still out there with Reddington Shores or Oldsmar or whatever, and it's still good, the manager can just reach out to that vendor and say, look, we've got work in Bel Air Beach that needs to be done. You're still under contract with this city. Would you be willing to honor that contract and those prices for the stuff that we need done? And if they say, yeah, sure, then he calls me, and I've done piggybacks for you guys before. I'll do up a piggyback contract, a couple pages long, and then you'll have it. And the theory there why you don't have to compete is because Oldsmar already competed it, and it's still fresh because it's still in term. So those are just your options there. Additional tools in your toolbox. 2-15, record keeping compliance. So some years ago, the legislature put in these detailed requirements that every single contract has to have this language in it, right down to the, on page 17, that it has to be in 14-point font. So again, it's just in being helpful to your staff and making sure that it's right there in their face in your code. We're just repeating what the statute says right there in your code. 2-16, this is important. So Florida law does identify what is a trade secret, and sometimes your vendors will say to the manager, "Oh, I'll give you this bid, or I'll give you this proposal, but it's secret, or it's confidential." You know, stamp confidential all over it. That has no meaning in Florida law. The key word is trade secret. That's what the legislature calls it. And key to us is the legislature has said, and the courts have confirmed, that if a vendor out there wants to keep a particular thing, say it's a trade secret, and keep it secret, it has to note it as a trade secret in advance before it gives it to the local government agency, and then the local government agency can look at it and independently check with its lawyers, is this really something that is not a public record? Because that's the issue here is, if there's a public records request that comes in, can this record be handed over? Like if a competitor comes in and says, "Hey, I heard you got a bid from my competitor, I want to see what that bid is," can he hand that out or can he not? If they've marked it trade secret, then we will look at that and verify. Sometimes someone will say, the whole thing is a trade secret. That's not the definition. The definition is, it's in there, you know, it's got to like be giving away some secret business sauce or whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but the point is, we're putting the vending community on notice by putting it in our code that if you don't do it in advance, don't come to us and cry when we've handed out a public records request that your supposed trade secret is in, because you didn't, you know, we told you right in our code what to do. 2-17, unauthorized purchases, ethical conduct. Y'all have read that for yourself. Obviously, we just want to call out that you know, Bel Air Beach ascribes to the highest level of ethics and procurement, and so you know this sort of sets forth both from the vendor standpoint and our employee standpoint what we want to see when folks are engaged in procurement on our behalf. Similar, 2-18, conflicts of interest. That just sets forth the various conflicts of interest that people are supposed to avoid, including our vendors. 2-19. Now this is one, y'all have read this, but this is one that's important to you, lobbying. Because vendors can't help themselves, especially if it's a larger dollar thing that's very consequential to their company, that it could be a big project for them. They want to call up, "Hey, Councilmember Wellings, you know, I'd like to talk to you about what our company has to offer." And they should not be doing that. Once we've put a solicitation on the street, be it an invitation to bid, a request for proposal, or whatever, this lobbying limitation kicks in, and they should be talking to no one but the manager. If they have a question about the solicitation, whatever, that all has to come to the manager so that you guys are insulated from the decision-making process, and whenever the big contract is brought back to you, you'll be able to judge it without having accusations from your residents. "Oh, I heard that you've been talking to this vendor behind the scenes," and you know, you think that these things don't happen, but I swear, last year, sitting in a meeting, talking about a very large multi-million-dollar procurement, and one of the members gets a text from one of the vendors who's like monitoring the situation, and they're like, "No, that is wrong, blah, blah, blah." And so, and thankfully, because the elected official, you know, knew what his code was, he's like, "Attorney, I think I need to alert you that I just got this text from this vendor." That vendor was disqualified from further participation. That's what this says. If you violate the anti-lobbying, you are disqualified from further participation, and you may be suspended or disbarred. So it's a very serious penalty, but it's part of the ethical situation that we want to do the procurement the right way. 2-20, prohibition against award to certain persons or entities. This comes out of Florida law, and so it's just, again, there for your staff's review. 2-21, authority to suspend or debar. So, you know, your code doesn't have this, and every time I redo a code for a municipality, I try to, you know, add this, authority to suspend or debar, because it's a very big hammer. And when we're dealing with a vendor who's not performing very well, one of the things that your manager can do is say, "Look, you need to make this right, or I'm going to suspend or debar you. Now, why is that important? Because you may say to yourself, well, they're not going to want to do business with, Bel Air Beach anymore. It's a small municipality. But what many government agencies do when they put out an invitation to bid or a request for proposal is they have a question. And this question goes to the minimum qualifications. Have you ever been suspended or debarred by any other entity in the past 5 years? Well, if you're a company that works in regionally or across Florida, if you have to answer, yes, Bradenton Beach debarred me last year, you could be disqualified from doing business with a whole bunch of other government entities out there. So businesses don't want to be suspended or debarred. And so that's a good tool for the manager to be able to pull out of his toolbox to say, you're screwing this up, you need to make it right now, or else we're going to do this. And I'm thinking of a particular vendor that we had doing a particular stormwater project that was not really necessarily performing all that well. Late last year, I think it was, and so it might have been nice, as an additional threat to them to say, we could do this to you. But you can't do it legally unless it's in the code, so that's why it's
Is that, can that go in a public database, that was
Yes.
debarred? Okay, so
Yes.
You know what the contractor does? He starts another business. I've experienced all this. I mean,
And then what happens is you say, the agency says, you must have existed for the past 3 years, so there's a lot of different things that you could do.
This is 10 years down the road, we just don't do business under
Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, you have the,
because of this stuff.
Well, it's not New Jersey.
yeah.
It's no better.
I'm not talking about New Jersey, but New Jersey has it, Pennsylvania has it, Maryland has it, Delaware has it, Virginia has it.
The point is, the world's not a perfect place. We're doing the best we can with the code that we're
There's
doing.
always ways around.
That's right. Build a better mousetrap. So 2-22 procedures related to suspension and debarment. Because we're the government, we do have to provide due process, and so that's really what this section deals with. 2-23, administrative procedures. So here, the code is just giving the manager the authority to adopt forms and procedures of how this is done, how that is done. Bel Air Beach is not a very complex government, and so I don't envision there will be extensive, administrative rules. But there are things that the manager could want to put in place for his staff to say, when we do it this way, this is how I want it done. Or when we do this, I want this form used to try to get standardization and quality control. This just gives him the authority to do that. And of course, makes it clear he can't do anything administratively that conflicts with the code that you guys are about to adopt. 2-24, use of bid bonds. I think bid bonds are underutilized by my clients, and I'm always out there trying to, encourage them to use bid bonds, especially for construction stuff, because a lot of times the bidders will come in, the bids will be opened, and the low bidder will see how much money it left on the table. And so then it will say, you know what, I'm not doing it. That's not right. When you put in a bid, that is a hard bid. That is an offer which allows us to accept that bid and binds you contractually to do that. And so what a bid bond does is say, all right, if you're going to bail out on us and you're not going to honor your bid, we're going to call that bond and stick the money in our pocket, with the theory being that we're now going to have to go to the second low bidder who's going to cost us more money. And so how are we going to pay for that? With the bid bond that we just took. If we don't make them get one, we have nothing to turn to. And making them get one will make them think 3 times about bailing out on their bid. So it's a
Don't we have a
win-win.
bid bond now?
Pardon me?
Isn't there a bid bond now in place? Under our current code?
Not in your code.
It was slides.
We can do it, but putting it in the code is emphasizing that
Right.
to your manager and future managers that we want to do this.
Everything that we put out, that's what we have to do.
The most major stuff. I back away from the smaller things because people don't bid on it.
Right, because there's a balance.
There's a cost.
Yeah, if it's a small project,
So will this, what's the dollar value?
again, there isn't any, it encourages it. And so, again, you're relying on your manager to make a decision, project by
Like it is
project.
now.
Exactly, yes. 2-25, purchase of real property. This comes right out of your current code. And that's it.
All right, council, comments, questions?
I really like it.
It's very well done.
Yep.
It's very straightforward and was much needed. Kyle, do you have any comments?
Just about the admin policy, that's something, I think the prior admin policy for the pre-existing code was pretty elaborate and almost repetitive, pretty large, almost harder to read than the code itself. But that's something I'd like to amend so that it fits this code and it only adds the formality you talked about and doesn't overcome.
Yeah, repeating the code is not the purpose of an admin. An admin is like to guide staff of just the nuts and bolts of how do we do this. When we're going to do this, how do we use Demand Star, and who's in charge of posting and all that kind of stuff. It's the back office stuff that the vending community honestly doesn't need to see.
All right, is there anyone on the council that would have any problems approving this ordinance?
I just have one quick question. So another place I was previously, and I don't think it would be less likely here with our city because it's smaller, but it could happen. You mentioned like HVAC systems. So let's say the first one is 12,000. So Kyle goes ahead and buys it. Good. Next one is 6,000. Now we're up to 18. Now it's October, or it's still within the year, budget year. So he buys another one, all from Frank's company. Now he goes over 20,000 in total. Does that cause a problem?
No, but if you look at the code, let me see if I can find it real quick.
Frank's company's just going to split the contract. So it's 18
Right.
and 18.
Exactly.
It's what they do.
The guy that was working with the county, a particular county, he happened to be it was tires. So he was the one individual that purchased tires. It was a large county, and it went over that magic number, and he got 7 days off.
So a couple things. First of all, the code says, where the commodities or services to be acquired are regularly required by the city, the procurement officials shall strive to solicit for and negotiate term contracts to avoid the need to resolicit such counsel or services annually. And then it also says, and I'm struggling to find it, but I know it says somewhere in here that solicitation should not be artificially broken up in order to avoid these kind of things. But the use of term contracts is such an important thing. One of our clients, a larger city with a large procurement staff, spins its wheels day in and day out, going and buying individual things. And I keep saying to them, why don't you guys just get a term contract? Like if you look at your annual spend on this particular commodity that you're buying, it's very high. Just go out and put an invitation to bid on the street for 3 years or 5 years or whatever. We're looking for a company to supply us this. Give us your price.
It's competitive.
And then it's competitive, and then they come in, and then we do a term contract. And then all he's doing is ordering off that term contract. And since the dollar value is very large, it would have come to you to be approved, because clearly it would exceed $75,000 if it's a multi-year contract. But that is a way to sort of avoid that kind of thing. And it's also a time saver. So it's really up to him. If he sees, gosh, this is the 7th time this year that I'm going out for the same commodity or service, it's probably time to put a solicitation on the street and get a term contract.
Excellent.
Okay?
I'll ask the question again, is there anyone here who would have a problem with approving this? Okay, cool. Well, hopefully it will be in our next meeting. Yeah, good. That's ready to go.
Real quick,
Right.
that contract that they asked you, that notified the council member that they were wrong, what's the contract to break? They got debarred? With a
I
question.
don't think we really cared. They were debarred and they got mad. And honestly, it wasn't, my recollection is it wasn't really even a hard and fast fact. It was more of a argument that they were making. Like, why are we a better company so than the other
No, I thought you
companies?
said that this is wrong, so. And
Right, but they disagreed with the opinion that was being offered.
Rob, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
For all the work on this. All right. Now,
Mayor, can I ask just one quick question?
Yes, you
A
may.
little unrelated, but it still has to do with purchasing. Kyle, when was the last time we reviewed contracts? I know we kind of put that in code a few years ago because we had contracts that had never been looked at for many, many years. And I know we don't have a lot of them, but just, do we do a contract review?
I'm trying to think of any contracts that would be very outdated. A lot of them we're doing memorandums of understanding yearly, and then RFQ for our city attorney, and the RFQ for the city engineer. I think it's coming up for me, it's third year. So I think we aimed at 5 years to relook at it.
I think that the one instance where we had a city attorney whose contract was never looked at for 20 years or something ridiculous. And so,
makes sense.
yeah, so I just don't want to get back in that position, but make sure we're staying on top of it.
All right, now we are on to chapter 94 review. This is item number 3 on the agenda.
I included back from when we started at the last meeting, because I wanted to go back over section 94, 210, which is going to be page 200 in red on the bottom. I have it on the screen. And the reason I came back to this is because we did open up the option to not only have the shed, but the gazebo, but what has been coming up as questions is also pergolas, and I just wanted to see if we're all in consensus that we'd be okay with a pergola of the same size, as well as a gazebo. Very similar, not, gazebos technically could have a full roof structure to be a building, and like pergola may not, just slats. So,
Open group system.
but I didn't want to assume that, I wanted to ask.
Council, any grievances with pergolas?
I think as long as they meet the wind requirements and the speed codes, I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Anyone else?
We're
I
allowing,
couldn't think of a reason, but I
the
wanted to-
structure, yeah, I think it's fine.
Why do we have a 4-foot setback going a shed?
We don't. The shed has to stay on the building setback. The shed has to stay on the building setback. There's no 4-foot setback.
Well, I'm talking about like from the property.
I thought there was, yeah, you can't put it against your fence, right?
That's the easement.
Yeah, you can't put it in the building setback at all, so whatever that is.
All right, but like what she was saying, we had that one resident, I can't remember, he designed it, I think 3 foot or 2 foot, whatever, got shut down. And I had to put the shed in the middle of the joint, you know what I'm saying? Where 2 feet, you can get it lower behind it, and a little meter. Why, that's been the way it's been since I've been here. I don't know why we still have that 4 foot. Is there a reason we have a 4 foot?
Well, it should be applied on what the setback is for the lot. The 4-foot, I think you're talking about the equipment encroachment, up to 4 feet on the side setback.
Well, if I want to, if this is my lot, and I want to put a shed here, I have to keep it 4 foot from this.
No, you have to keep it whatever your side setback is. If you're talking about the side, or your, it has to stay.
So if it's 4 or 5 feet,
Yeah,
let's just
yeah.
call it, he's thinking of the building.
So yeah, none of those setbacks are as small as 4 feet. The smallest, yeah, you can have a 7-foot rear and side setback, and you can have as low as a 5-foot rear setback in certain
I think his
situations.
is 7.
Yes.
Yeah,
some-
7 or 8, so he has to keep it 8 feet out. And he's in the corner, so it's sticking out like a sore thumb. And I guess the question is why?
I think the idea behind that was to keep it out of the line of sight from the road. If you're just keeping the same setbacks, then it'd be shielded by the structure.
It's also done for access, it's also done for fire safety. It's, if you put yours right up against the back of the fence line and the next door neighbor has against the fence line, you won't be able to get, if the building is burning, for example, you wouldn't be able to get to whatever you need to get to. So a lot of it is life safety related and
Yeah,
not
and I
necessarily,
understand
okay.
that, but I mean, 2 feet would be giving you that passageway. And I know what you're saying, 7 feet, you know, and all like that, but
Well, no, if you ask your fire department, they're not going to be happy with 2 feet. Yeah, so. But,
Those guys need to go to Planet Fitness.
well, they're running with equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're running with equipment. And,
Yeah, but our sheds have to be under 100.
100 square feet.
Yeah, 100 square feet.
And they cannot be visible from the road.
It's been a struggle, because I know there were a lot of them against fences,
Yeah.
and when we initiated that, they have to be out.
When was that initiated?
I mean, it's been probably 15 years ago or something. I mean, there were several,
It's been like that since I've been here,
maybe,
13.
but there were several properties that had to move their sheds, and it was a
Yeah,
problem.
and like right before I came in, it was 17, 18.
There were many years of looking the other way, and then we got serious about code. So that's how that happened. And I think what we're really just trying to accomplish is, okay, you have this area that you can build your house in, and if you don't fill that area, well then you can put an accessory within those boundaries. And Kyle, is that?
I think we're going beyond that.
So, yeah, I know that we did the detached building code, which was a FEMA requirement for the sheds, so they wanted all that wind code to be written in there. And then, we determined that a building didn't stay out of the setbacks. I don't know if we could have made a different decision on that. But that followed in suit with our code at the time.
Just a question.
All right, what's next?
Kathy, do you recall the section that we were on after last work session? I don't want to skip over.
Where we
I
stopped.
want to say 20, yeah. Did we talk about the
We were,
mobile homes?
yes.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes, we did.
Or-
I thought we were at the Division 3. Wait a minute.
Division, I believe.
Wasn't page 216, I believe?
216 in red. Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
One second.
So everyone knows at 7:30, we'll take a short break, all right?
So roadway and driver intersection visibility 94-259. And that's page 215.
Yes, it said 216, so.
You said 216,
Oh,
right?
Yeah, I was at 216 on Division 3, swimming pools and hot tubs.
Okay. So this was moved from chapter 10. Starting here. No major changes except
So we took this from chapter 10 and relocated it to this.
Yes. And also, section 94-293, where it says setbacks height width for the pools. This is the section, we said the height of the swimming pool should be no higher than 24 inches from the gravel road. So this is the increase, previously 18 inches. And confirmed with planner Serna, we thought that the 24 would have gotten us out of almost all of the variance requests that we had in the past 2 or 3 years. I know there's some discussion that we're possibly looking a little higher. And I would like to get back into the fence code as well. We're looking at the waterfront lots because our 12 feet from the inside edge of the seawall, it can cause issues as far as pool safety fences. And I want to get some clarification if we want to include the mesh style pool safety fences as part of that height code for fences.
That fence code is only, that only applied on the property line, inside the property.
Yeah.
The way it reads is
supposed to be 4 feet? Is it 3 or 4 feet?
4 feet up to, from
12 feet.
0 to 12 feet from the seawall. And then it can go to 6.
Right.
And you're talking about the child safety measures.
Yes.
Why are we putting restriction?
Well-
Why is that our business?
Well, the way our fence code reads out, it technically, somebody, if we say that that's not incorporated in the fence code, that that's not something that's restricted by the fence code, then somebody could, I guess, stake one of those fences at any height, because there'd be no height restriction for that type of fence. So when this question came up and I was looking at a resident who actually had one of these fences that were, if you treat it as a fence and our fence code was non-conforming, they couldn't have this full safety fence where they had it. And I don't, it's unique because we have the Florida pool safety code, so you have to, create a fence around the pool and on a waterfront lot. You're not required to have that on the rear, on the seawall cap. So in most of our lots, people are satisfying the statute of the safety by having perimeter fences in their gate. So this is not a situation where they're putting up a mesh safety fence to satisfy the safety code. It's an addition.
To protect the child.
To protect your child, yeah.
I mean, and again, we shouldn't get involved in that. I don't think we should dictate any of that, because
Right.
as soon as a child falls in that pool, and I don't want us to be liable
Yeah.
for saying you can't put that up in your backyard.
Yeah, we just don't want people to think that that's suitable for a main fence.
So if we were to write more into the code to understand how these apply, would there be an exception, you believe, for this type of fence?
Well, those are.
Let me ask you, did you get a complaint about
I
it?
did.
What was the complaint?
That it violates the pool height, the safety, the fence height in that area of 0 to 12 feet from the seawall.
But is it inside the setback?
It's in, yeah, so it's.
Inside the
it's-
12 feet?
It's inside the 12 feet, and if, this is a unique lot, so you have the seawall, and then you have an additional retaining wall built, and then a higher deck. So the way the fence code reads is that when you have that retaining wall right next to the seawall, you have to include that in the 4 feet. So measured up from the seawall height, not that additional height. So say they had an additional 18 inches on the retaining wall, you'd have to subtract that, so they could only have a fence that was 2.5 feet from the actual
It's a
deck.
mesh fence, and it's the
It is.
person's backyard.
I know, and I
So the intention was not to have a too tall a fence, it was just purely a matter of the logistics of the lot and how that fence laid out according to the walls.
right, but is this a situation where, because part of that safety fence is inside of that restricted area, do we make them move it out? Or do we give an exemption for that?
Generally, they're right around the pool area. Right?
This is-
You don't want the kids.
Why wouldn't we just put this through the variance process? Since it's unique to one lot.
Need a permit for that
For
fence.
safety.
Right.
Yeah,
Did they want them to remove the fence?
They feel it violates the code, but,
So they wanted to,
yeah.
I don't know how some of these people get up this morning. With all these birds.
Well, I guess it's a fear that someone could do, where do we draw a line if somebody does something a little strange?
I
Well,
think
I'm
there's
just
got to
gonna
be
say
some
this.
discretion there, and I think that discretion's yours.
I mean, it's kind of like saying I can't have a hedge inside my property. Like, which I have, if I'm way in off the setback, but I have a hedge that goes around my pool for privacy. And there's nothing in the code that says I can't have that. And I just don't, I'm sorry, but it's not your backyard, is what I would say to someone complaining.
Damn right, it's not your backyard.
it's because it's blocking.
Don't be
some-
sorry about it. It isn't your backyard.
Oh,
Whenever
it's
you-
blocking a view of something.
Whenever you buy a property on the water, there's always a risk that a neighbor may change something in their yard. And it's just, that goes along with living on the water. Your view is subject to change.
I thought we had changed the code to 4 feet from the water edge, not to 12 feet, years ago. Did that not change?
Well, it was 8 feet,
Right,
and then we expanded it to 12.
went the other way.
Yeah, we had it long.
How about if you talk to the
Wait.
planner and ask his
Talking about
opinion?
fence.
Because my opinion is.
Distance from the
just like it
setback.
is in
Oh,
town.
So you've got a height
So it's
restriction 12 feet
complaining.
from the wall, and then you can go up from there, but you, at a
This is
certain,
no
up to that,
different
you're
than
limited to that 4 feet for 12 feet from the
installing
seawall.
Or by
So you can
boat.
have a fence.
Right.
And then
Right.
go to-
Step up.
Another one,
Well,
and then go
a
another
boat on
one.
the lift is a lot different because it's.
But I think the maximum height is 8
This is
feet,
within
6 feet or 8
someone's
feet.
backyard.
But even that though,
Okay.
if I live next to.
But
But the
it,
main fence is right at the
you
right.
can't
It's
see
6 feet.
your views of-
The main fence is right there at the water is 4 feet.
Beach, in the
I would say we
pool.
would touch that.
I mean, are we gonna get into that next?
Max.
But we're not getting into
Zero.
anything. It was a hypothetical question.
Oh, no, it was a complaint driven to him. I mean, God, you're not getting.
But it's just, well, one of these things is like, when these come up, and if somebody was to put like a vinyl fence, then it would be a different situation, so I'm trying.
Right, well, just talk to the planner.
I'd say in the terms of pool and safety and temporary, the way these fences are designed, it really isn't intended to be a permanent fence. It could be picked up and removed. So I'd say as long as it's
Yeah.
temporary, that it's not.
That's a good way to deal with it, yeah.
Kids get to an age, they pull them up, they put the cap in the ground where
Yeah.
the pole was, and they sell the fence. I mean, or throw the fence out. I mean,
So leave it as the idea of a permanent fence as part of the definition, and anything that's temporarily assembled or temporarily is, yeah.
Okay.
All right, what's next?
That's something that'll work. Okay, so we covered the pool, so that is in relation, so if we're not, if we're okay with, you know, the removable fences not being included in the fence code, are we still good with the elevation of your pool, to be a minimum?
I mean, I proposed 30 inches
for those
last
things?
time when we met,
how many?
30 inches.
Instead of the 24, right?
Where are we at?
So
It's
we're,
back up.
so we're still in the pool section,
217.
I'll go back to,
217.
217, which is 94
G.
293.
217.
and,
G has a
looking
height.
G,
at
okay.
G, yes. If you went up to 30, I can't say that would cause an issue for any reason. It all kind of goes back to why we didn't want it to begin with, why we said this. And when I listened back to the 2010 discussion, it sounded like it was about the yards being built up too high and people not liking that.
I thought it was also about the runoff, and that there was some possibilities of not managing the water, the drainage.
I think that, I mean, any lot could not, that could change over time, especially when you get people bringing in lots of large palm trees and they change their grading. I wouldn't be so concerned about that because I just feel like that's always a go. Like,
Always
as soon as
that
you're
water.
not
Yeah, that's-
keeping your water, then you're gonna get a violation.
And I think that's back to.
I don't have an issue with 30, because it just seems like we're raising the base level of the houses anyway, so 30 seems reasonable to adjust as we're raising the base level of the houses too.
Everyone okay with 30? Yes?
And I can ask Planner Stern what.
It can't be more.
Fairly close.
It can be less.
Yeah, so
Just
what's
the
problem?
highest
Yeah,
is
yeah,
30.
yeah.
So you're not like the houses out in Gulf Boulevard where you see the pool's like 8 feet tall from the ground or something.
Lloyd,
Yeah. I'm good with
you're
30.
real quiet.
Good with 30?
Okay. All right.
My water doesn't affect anything, and I didn't do this, but when we bought the house, the guy in the pump system, I just opened a valve and it goes underground, the pipe goes underground and comes out on the street. So it doesn't impact anybody if I get too much water in my pool.
Okay, so that was the only, besides moving the whole pool section to this chapter. Then we get to division 4, docks, wharfs, and Davits. Construction. So this got moved as well. But the key thing is we had a, which is on page 220, 94-297 plans and specifications. And that'd be subsection 8. It says floating docks larger than 200 square feet shall require a permit through the city and shall meet the requirements set forth in this section and the sections 94-265 and 94-214. So that we had this in there because we have people throughout the city that have floating docks. They exist, and there was never anything in our code talking about floating docks. They were just popping up. And then this is kind of saying, you know, that up to this amount, that's okay. But if they're larger, it's going to require a permit because once you get into a larger dock, you can quote a little bit larger, space management and all that.
Even though it's
Good.
That's a pretty good size floating dock.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a 10 by 20, or some variation on that. That's a pretty good size dock.
Is that in addition to the fixed dock that might be there?
Yes, that would be an addition.
So if you made the fixed dock the biggest allowable, you can have another 200 square feet of floating dock.
As long as you're within, you're still following the setback requirements.
Okay.
And fire requirements. And then, you know, we talked about the construction, all of those numbers stay the same, the distances. This would be another area though,
Can I ask
if we're reducing that side, that we would amend it as well.
So planning and zoning is recommended that we remove the floating docks.
But, yeah, they said that they didn't think there should be any floating docks within the city, that was a recommendation.
That was heavily steered by one person.
But there's no floating docks in the city?
There are.
So they wanted to say no floating docks are permitted.
For the last
Why?
decade or so, that's the big floating docks.
Why would we say, why would there be a reason to say no if,
No, because there was one person who was having a grievance with her neighbor over a floating dock. That's all it was.
got it?
And there are a couple of homes that I can think of that are kind of wedged, seawalls on both sides, and the only way they can get a dock in there is to put a small floating dock.
I think flexibility is key here.
Yeah.
So just clarify that. It says each dock constructed on Reservoir Pond property shall not exceed 900 square feet in total surface area, exclusive of the catwalk. So the 200 square feet floating dock can be on top of that? Or included?
That would be an
Okay.
addition.
Okay.
I think, is that, because it cannot, is, shall meet the requirements set forth in the
That's fine. All right. Yeah.
Should we keep that? When I start thinking that through, like, you know, you're limited if you build a stationary dock to 900 square feet, but then we're allowed you to have a floating dock that, I mean, I assume there's going to be a catwalk down to that floating dock. Then now all of a sudden it's 1,100 square feet. Does that change things?
But you said it all had to sit within the setbacks, correct? So it has to be within their property boundaries and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
permitted to be.
setbacks. I just don't know if the total square footage applies to the floating. That's what we're looking at.
I would think that it's per dock, because if you've got a big long seawall, you may have two completely separate docks.
Yeah, you could have a lot of space back there, not violate, and then still max out at 900 square foot. And in addition, depends on the size of your water.
You know, I think it'd be per structure, and then if you have a floating that you want to put out there also, and that's just an additional 200.
Okay, and that's, would that be what the council would agree to in addition? Or would you want
I think you're right. The setbacks are going to keep us from getting crazy.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Making sure we're all.
There's some crazy docks out there. They're huge.
Right, right.
So I guess they're breaking them up, or I'm not real sure.
Should have thought of that one, Bill.
All right, 7:29. Let's take a break. Before we get started again, everyone knows we normally wrap up these meetings at 9 o'clock. Try not to carry them any longer. For the sake of time, my recommendation would be, once we finish with Chapter 94, we skip over to items 5 and 6, and then we pivot back to 4, because we know we're just going to love dealing with assignments. So, everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right, cool. Where were we, Kyle?
You're at the antennas.
What page is that on?
Page 221 in red.
220.
Again, satellite antennas, 94-299. Okay, satellite antennas, we added additional code. A lot of this, the satellite antennas and the telecommunications towers were redone by Attorney Mora. We have a lot of understanding of the telecommunication towers and antennas after dealing with the one we had in Dollar Beach.
I make a comment here. It's gone. No, he took it down.
The famous antenna?
I went by the other night. The people that complained about it, they left there to the storm, and he just took it down. I don't know if he's gonna put it back up.
He's
But
doing
all
it
that crap.
Spiking the ball.
I had like, my head almost came off my doing the double. I don't know if he's gonna put it back up or it's down. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I had Attorney Mora was early on explaining this to our planning and zoning, and he really, in his deep dive into all this law, he redid our code to be consistent with the law. He didn't really change any of his interpretation of the tower in our situation, but he just tightened up the code and got what he thought was needed. And planning and zoning.
You know, those like the Starlink satellites that are going to be getting more and more popular. They should fit with this Starlink easily, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All fives.
I tried all once.
Well, that's pretty much the rest of this.
Starlink is really way more popular than it used to be, and more people are using it. But the antenna configuration is completely different than what it was with the round dishes. So my question is, I guess what Councilmember Wellings was alluding to is, does this cover that?
Does it cover?
Does it cover the new antenna configurations, or is it something that we need to pitch it back to Randy and say, what about?
Are they much smaller?
They are smaller, they look simpler to mount. I just glanced at the code, it didn't seem like anything blocks it, that this stops at, but I don't know if it needs to be more
They're smaller,
explicit.
but they have ridge mount antennas.
Right.
That right on top of the house.
Right,
And,
yeah,
So.
They got
something-
several mounting configs, right? Yeah.
Something we should definitely consider.
Yeah.
We did add on page 229, Article 8, solar energy systems. We didn't have anything, laid out for solar systems. So we took this code from the Pinellas County code. And there was one comment that the planning and zoning had, which was that they wanted to take 3A ground-mounted solar panels are limited to 14. They just wanted to remove that, which I think is fitting into our community. So only allow the roof-mounted solar panels we would typically see. And then the one thing that had come up just from the real life residents in our community is there was a brought up about someone who installed solar panels and they created a glare into a window, which can happen, and then it was addressed in the council code, so we thought it was good to have something in the off chance that they put up something that really is affecting your neighbor.
Kyle, item 3A, are you saying that you want to change that from a maximum of 14 feet to not allowed at all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they wanted to remove that, they didn't think it was appropriate to have ground mounted.
I would leave ground mounted as a category defined. I would not remove it altogether, but I would say if you're not allowing it, then you simply say it's not allowed versus taking it out altogether, because then you open up the question of what happens to ground stakes later down the road.
Oh, and Tom, I know that Randy technically doesn't work for us. I was hypothetically saying he probably did that. And you'd be
I'm sure he'd be happy to help.
You'd be
Yeah.
pitching it to them, not us.
Okay.
And then the Article 9, development agreements, this is all a section that was added by the planner. Felt needed to be added.
I understand why, but I don't see that we ever have a development agreement.
Yeah, I guess it's good. Just add it in there.
Who actually authored this section?
I will get where planner certainly recommended this whole section, but I don't know where he got most of his code from the experience. He did make sure that it all aligned with the comprehensive plan.
And Tom, have you looked at this section at all yet?
Or the solar panel section or development agreement section?
Development.
No, but I will definitely put my eyes on it.
Okay.
It is governed by state statute, Chapter 163. There's specific provisions in the development agreement that have to be there, and so long as this follows that, it should be fine. But I'll go ahead and make sure that it meets all the requirements.
I'm sure we'll come back around whenever it's ordinance time anyway.
Yeah, okay.
And then we didn't see any need to change these diagrams. But I still want to ask if there's some better form to use. I'm sorry, 239, 240. And we kind of just illustrated the situation. Into the chapter. And we still have this in here. This was the recommendation for the RM, which at the last meeting, I was planning to go with the planner's recommendations on further than what And then this was related, this is the layout of the parking plan that told us, which would be 103 and 110, but full packet, but it's on the screen. That's the marina parking plan. We kind of allocate how many spots fit in that lot, and we use that to figure out sort of how many actual parking spots would be in that lot, and then compare it back to how many parking spots are required for the nourishment. And right at the bottom, I have what Dr. Bishop and the guy told us we're currently utilizing 34 of those parking spaces for the nourishment program. So there is some space for room in that lot where we do other things. All right. And then that will take us to 86, which is assigned to the school secretary.
So sorry, back on that, those pictures of the fence on page 244. And I just wanted to clarify my understanding of what you were saying about the side, the height. So are these numbers on the side for fences, are they,
Exhibit F?
what?
Exhibit F?
Yeah, Exhibit F, yeah. It says, so it says 4 foot, that's a minimum? And you can go taller?
That's the maximum height. That's the maximum height.
From seawall to the first 12 feet.
It says
4 feet.
4-foot high fence required, or wall required. Is that right? Am I reading that right?
Right, 4 feet
So you have to have a minimum of 4 feet, right?
maximum.
That means you can't put a 3-foot in, because that would not meet the requirement, right? You have to put a 4-foot in. I'm assuming that all means you could do 5, 6, 7, 8, and meet that.
It's just open, yeah, it's waterfront.
So the waterfront, from the back of the house to the seawall, it says it has to be 4 foot, and then it can be 6 foot along the side of the house, and I guess, I don't know what happens to the front, I forget, but anyway.
So the page 73 or 74 is a non-waterfront.
Right, so the waterfront one,
That one looks like it's correct.
the waterfront one,
It's saying 4 feet wall required around the.
that says non-waterfront.
Yeah, for the
Which one are you on,
non-waterfront.
Kyle?
But if you go to the waterfront lot,
He's
you're
on
looking
72,
at
74.
244.
74.
Right.
That one, I think we need to update to show the distance from the seawall to the first 12 feet, because it looks to be depicting this all the way up to the
House?
house. is
Okay.
4 feet.
Okay. But it
Which
is,
is interesting
that's the
that
requirement,
it
it
was
needs to be a minimum of 4 feet?
It needs
Of
to-
height?
No, it needs to be no more than 4 feet. It's
Okay.
the maximum.
That's what I've read it and used it. So you could go less, okay.
Right, so it's a 4-foot setback for the first 12 feet, and then it goes to a maximum of 6 feet for the balance if you choose, but you could go 4 feet the whole way if you wanted to.
You could.
Okay.
I would say that these probably need to be updated.
Yeah, just clarify the words. I think people are gonna go to the visual pretty quickly and say, I need that.
Or just grow a natural hedge, right?
Yeah, I'll see what the planner recommends on these. I've tried to experiment with some 3D models on showing setbacks on lots. It's a little tough when I try to show everything. But I know that there are models out there that will play into our
Just have the engineering firm draw something. They'll draw it in a second.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
Anything else on this section or chapter of the code, chapter 94? Everybody good? Okay, so now we are moving on to item 5, discussion of Councilmember Welling's resignation and council direction. First off, I would like to thank Councilmember Wellings for stepping up whenever Bel Air Beach needed you most. I appreciate your service to the community, and I'm sorry you didn't get in the first time, and then I came to my senses, and I'm glad you're here. You've been a great addition to the team, and you will be sorely missed. So I wish you the best of luck wherever you're going, and I hope that you get to spend lots of time with the grandkids.
Yep,
That was
grandkids and kids, yeah.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry I wasn't able to finish out the term. This house sale went pretty fast.
That's awesome.
I was actually quite surprised. Yeah, and I hope I've been helpful and able to contribute to help, especially after having to rebuild from these storms. It was really when we needed people to help, I thought. I felt like I really tried to research and understand many different perspectives. I learned a great deal from all you. Thank you so much, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity. And I really admire this whole council's dedication to this city. You guys really put in a lot of effort to get this city going. Appreciate it. You guys should be really proud of yourselves.
We appreciate your hard work on everything to do with stormwater.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So, other comments from the council?
I'd like to give his wife a hand. She
She's our only-
I don't know if you were a POW in another life or whatever, but I think we should give her some roses or something. God bless you.
Okay, so I put some thought into this, and it's not a super long time, but it's a long time till the November election. So I would propose to the council that we advertise and we nominate and elect another interim to fill the spot until, to finalize this term and then get us on track with the 5-member council. The only thing that I ask is that whoever we decide to vote in, it has to be a majority. So if there's only one candidate, we still require a majority to elect that person. I don't want somebody just walking in and no one approves. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll get Kathy to advertise. And if you know people, you're more than welcome to invite them to throw their name in the hat, and we'll see what happens.
Mayor, can I jump in?
Sure.
I've been through this process a number of times in my cities, and so I had made some suggestions to Kathy when she reached out to me when we got the resignation, and I had suggested an application process, and I had created an application, and I thought that maybe what you would have before you is if someone is really interested, you have a little bit more information on them. You may know them because of your longtime residents, and they're a longtime resident, but if you had an application, you would be able to have some basic information about them.
I believe in the past we do require.
There was some application I had to fill out,
process.
yeah.
You must qualify.
Okay, and then the other thing I'm concerned about is, well, what is the actual process? I mean, so, when this happened in Oldsmar this past year, my suggestion was that we have a 5-minute introduction by each applicant, followed by a 10-minute question and answer period if that's necessary, followed by a 3-minute follow-up that applicant will, now I know what all your questions are, let me explain some other things about me kind of thing. And then when the question and answer period is done, then the public would have an opportunity to basically talk to you, not interview, not question the applicant, but at least tell you, hey, I know this guy or gal, and she does a really good job, and I really would support this person. And then ultimately, there would be a vote after each one of these people have gone through that process. So if you have 5 people, it's going to take a little bit more time. That's just my suggestion, so that you have something that they know. If you have a process, they know what the process is going to be. I don't know what you've done in the past, so what is the process?
Pretty much.
You're actually in luck because you almost described our process anyway. the
Yeah.
way that we've-
So Randy must have stolen my process.
Yeah, I think you might have, yeah.
Always done it that way, right?
Yeah,
That's kind
yeah,
of-
we've always done it that way.
Okay, man, all right,
So,
thank you.
It's not quite as formal as the way that you're spelling it out, but yes, they will go through an interview process. The public will have the opportunity to speak. Eventually, we'll call for a vote, and then we will elect a winner.
Okay, now do you do that vote by way of a ballot?
Yes.
Okay.
And what'll happen is that we'll write names on the ballot and select candidate of your choice.
Okay.
And then if there's a tie or something weird like that, maybe it doesn't go the way that you want, we may do a process of elimination. This one's out, let's vote again and
Gotcha.
try to, that sort of situation.
All right, okay.
All right. Well, that was easy.
Okay.
Yes.
Just a quick question, either Kathy or Kyle. Do we know where Anders is in the family tree? You know,
Kathy's
the
been
people that were
tracing
three
that.
in place.
Yeah, we have a special key to keep track of everything, but we always reference it because it's
Okay.
confusing. But she has looked at it.
Oh, and
Has
like
that
signatures and
use.
stuff, right?
Because that matters with respect to, is that position, the original foundation position, is up for reelection in November or not?
That's
So
that's all
his
off.
seat is up in November, and he then goes back for, or would have originally gone back to be reelected for another 2 years, is
Okay.
what I was told.
Okay, good.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah.
When do we
All
start
appointed
having
has to be
elimination?
elected at the next cycle.
Correct.
And then they
After
finish up.
November.
Right.
But that's not one of
So
them.
it would be a 2-year.
Yeah.
It, he will be elected, and that seat will be elected in November, but for 2 years.
For 2 years, correct.
Right,
Not for
and
the-
Jody and my seat
Not for the
fall off.
four.
Not for the four.
And then,
Because he was appointed.
right,
Right, our seat- our seats
Councilmember
fall off.
Shirley
But I think
and
it's also
Harper
who he
fall
is.
off
Yeah.
naturally
He works in the House
in
cycle,
November.
yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's just to make sure that we're as balanced as possible. We have 3, 1 election, and then 2 the next.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, let's see here. So council's good with that. Next, we're on item number 6, discussion establishing the candidate qualifying period, June 15th through 19th, 2026, for the November 3rd, 2026 municipal election. Kathy?
So I had been speaking with Wendy Grimes at Supervisor of Elections, and we had come up with probably May or June being the qualifying period. So I believe her qualifying period's the same time as the June 15th. So I wanted to throw that date out there and see if that would work.
So your recommendation is June 15th through the 19th?
Correct.
Okay, any questions or comments on that?
What is that the period in which you would accept? No, that you would review?
Petition
You have
to
to
qualify.
have-
You've received all the applicants and you would review, or I guess.
Your
no.
signature cards.
Applicants are putting in their submissions to be qualified.
Okay, during that window, got it.
How many seats will we have?
So since we're going to
I
the
see.
5, we would have 2 seats, and then also Councilmember Welling's seat. So 2 4-year mayors is up, and Roberts is up, and then Alders is a 2-year. So 4-year, 4-year, and a 2-year.
Hers would be up too, because.
Yeah, but we're talking about,
Hers-
I'm talking about
Ours is
replacing.
operating.
Who has to run for
Yeah.
office?
Right.
Wow, it's going to be different in November. Frank's the only one standing.
Okay.
You're the only one standing in
Are we
November.
on until November, or are we on
Yeah.
until the next swearing-in cycle?
Which, You?
Your term expires in November.
But it's at the election, or it's at the swearing-in of the next council?
It's until the swearing in of the next council member. 'Cause we can't have the gap.
Right.
We can't have you go off and not have
Right,
anybody in that
right.
position. Okay.
No matter how much you want to get out of it.
Just happens.
Okay, so everybody's good with that, and you know what to do. But Wendy's very helpful.
Yes, she has been.
Okay, now we are back to the chapter that is near and dear to everyone's heart, especially Frank's, which is chapter 86. signs.
Motion to table.
All right, we've got 1 hour.
Okay, so if you recall, Attorney Morrow was working on the sign code, I believe 2022 prior to Manager Reeves leaving the city. And to date, we haven't gotten one passed through ordinance. And from my standpoint of what he drafted, I think he did a comprehensive job of covering almost everything we could come up with a sign code. And they may not all apply to Bella Reach this present day, but maybe in the future we could come up. There was a lot of definitions and different, every scenario you possibly want to consider at the same time, where he prepared a lot of reference to court cases and how he arrived at the code. So from my point of view, I have no issue with this code. There's nothing about it that I feel would be a problem, but it's been a long time that we haven't had an actual sign code in ordinance that we're enforcing. And I think it's important that we do get it done before the November midterm elections, when we'll start seeing a lot more political signs, and the city signs too.
Right. So not all of you were here whenever we went through this process. It may look a little bit intimidating, but this has been cut way down. Randy worked very hard to make sure it was comprehensive, yet not impossible to decipher. Tom, have you been through this section?
I have not been provided with a copy of the ordinance that Randy prepared. So I received the packet of materials showing your current code.
So what's in here is our current code. And then I believe we had Randy's past ordinance in our last packet. But I can also pull it.
So the section 86 that is in here is the current code or the
That's
proposed
what we're
code?
left with. It's still in place, which we decided we weren't going to enforce because it was, had some conflicts lately. That caused an issue.
Well, I was ready to discuss Randy's version, and I see it's not in here.
Let me pull it back, get a copy of all this.
Yeah, I just have the original.
Which is 6 pages.
Honestly, Kyle, what I'm thinking is because no one has actually seen it,
Send it back out.
then maybe we need to delay this one
Sure.
and give everyone a chance to read it on their own time, and then whenever we do our next work session, we review it. Because even though he worked really hard on it to try to make it as condensed as it could, it's still a lot of reading. And it's, you're going to think it's overkill. You're going to think, why are we doing this? But the truth of the matter is that people sue. People find every reason whatsoever, especially with signs. They look for any kind of a loophole, any type of an opening, any way that they can, especially during heated elections or just whatever else. So it has to be very tight. And Tom, would you like to comment on that?
So this all started back maybe 15 years ago or so when the city of Oldsmar was sued for their sign code. We were in the middle of rewriting that sign code, and there was a federal case that was tried in Tampa during our sign code review. We were successful in rewriting the sign code before the case went to trial, and the court basically found, if my memory serves me right, that it was the cause of action brought by the complainants, which was a billboard company, was moot. And so we felt very good about the fact that our sign code was upheld in federal court. And ever since then, we have been rewriting codes as we have taken on new cities to make sure that they are very similar to the code that we drafted back then. Of course, updated, especially because in 2015, there was a very famous case, Reed versus the town of Gilbert, Arizona, that came up. And so we have to make some adjustments because of that case. But it's good to have an enforceable sign code that you don't have to worry about somebody suing you over. And specifically, you don't have to worry about a billboard going up on Gulf Boulevard out here because of the fact that your code is terrible. And that's really the big thing, is the billboard companies coming in. You can't prohibit them unless you have a code provision that specifically addresses that. And you don't currently have that. So it's really, really important for you to have a good sign code.
And so we kicked this down the road because at the time we didn't have full buy-in on, we didn't have enough to reach a majority, and it was just got kicked on down the road. So we're back, and this is a new council, relatively new, and it's time to take a look at it again.
We haven't had a sign code now for what, 6 years?
Last election cycle, we turned it off, didn't we?
Change. Well, I think, as we said,
Well, since I've been on council, we haven't had a sign ordinance. What trouble have we had?
we haven't had anyone.
What trouble could we have?
Well, what I'm saying
I have
is why create language that,
I think when someone violates it, then I don't have anything to stand on.
what do they, what I'm saying is what's really been violated in this, that, I don't
I don't know, I'd like to put a billboard out there in front of one of those, I could buy a little corner at the hotel and put a billboard up.
Yeah, I'm thinking about putting a Dytex sign out there,
I'll sell you a
battling
spot.
surge protection.
Well, you can on that side of the street on the hotel side. I mean,
I think Kyle's right, though. He needs a tool that if somebody complains about a sign that I put up somewhere, and he says, we don't have anything to defend or not defend that, he needs a tool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If somebody makes it.
we have this in all other aspects of all things Bel Air Beach. And this is what's missing. And the reason why we are where we're at now is because we were threatened with litigation. So it's time to fix this and put it to bed. And then if one neighbor complains about another neighbor or something doesn't seem fair in an election, we've got a guide. And then we can say, here's our code, and we've done everything in our capabilities to make sure that we've covered everything to make it completely fair. So in the event that there is litigation, we can show the courts that, hey, we tried. And if we didn't try, then there's nothing stopping anyone from coming after us and our community. So it's just a safeguard. It's not that we're trying to punish anyone. So next work session, everybody good with that? And we'll make sure everyone gets a copy. Kathy?
Yes.
All right, good. All right, well, we may not make it to 9 o'clock. Now we have general business. Do we have any general business that needs to be discussed?
the buoys, are they being put in place or?
Yeah, I'm bringing the approval to execute the PO to the next meeting. We struggled to get 3 competitive bids again, so we got to do a no bid.
Yeah, I got an email from a swimmer, wanted to know where they were, so I said I'd bring it up to
So I'm going to have 2 quotes. The best, I believe, is the ones we've been using prior years, but and the one no quote.
him. Just a question.
All right, and Tom, did you receive any suggestions on the interlocal?
I have not received any from any of the commission or the council, if that's what you're asking.
Yes.
The answer is no. I have not received any
Okay.
comments.
Let me just say, I read it and I'm okay with it, so
Okay.
I'll just go on the record of saying that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Well, this council has no right giving away anything that the landowners control. And Bel Air Shores does not deserve to park in those lots. Bel Air Shores is not mentioned in those lots. And I think we set ourselves up for litigation if we go forward with it. Just a thought.
Well, thank you for putting it in writing. Anyone else?
I wanted to ask an interpretation, just the way I read the interlocal agreement. So my understanding is up till this point, the city of Bel Air Beach has maintained those lots and that access point to this date and time. Landscaping, irrigation, parking
As far as I understand,
has all been at the behest of Bel Air Beach.
2003.
The way I read the new agreement is it reads to me like Bel Air Shores is taking control of the lots and then they are giving or granting license or access to Bel Air Beach. That's my interpretation of the way the new agreement reads. If I'm wrong in that interpretation, tell me, but I don't have a problem with it. It's just more a matter of how is it viewed as they have access, they have control and they're giving us access, or we have control and they are.
The control has not changed.
Okay.
What is happening is the maintenance responsibilities have changed.
So we're
So
okay, the maintenance.
we currently
Got it.
maintain it and pay for it. They're saying, no, we're going to maintain it and pay
Correct.
for it.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's kind of the tone change I see in the agreement is more, they are taking more ownership of the aspects of the lots, and then we are working on how it's paid for and or maintained.
They are, under that new agreement, they are maintaining it at whatever cost that is involved.
To their standard.
And it also provides that if they can't maintain, they can always ask this city to help them with whatever that they're trying to accomplish. For example, rake the beach, or, you know, pave the parking lot, or stripe the parking lot, or fix the gate, or, you know, there is a provision that says that the two cities will work together on that type of situation
Okay.
where they need the help.
So my understanding is that this is just a question of clarification. So we currently have an allocated set of manpower and public works budgets that we're spending time and energy doing these lots. Are we in turn, if they are taking control of the management of those lots, are we offsetting their expense? In other words, if we were spending $100 on maintaining that outlot, and we've now transferred through the new interlocal agreement that Bel Air Shores is going to maintain that outlot, would that $100 be allocated to them and we pay them for the expense?
No,
Or do we offset the expense and they're just absorbing that expense?
no, they're just absorbing that
Okay.
expense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay, like, who's going to mow the lots? Who's going to fix the showers?
That's their
Who's
problem.
going to, huh?
That's their problem.
Bel Air Shores now.
Yeah. So they're going to maintain. Correct.
Well, and how do they maintain it? Like a bad uncle?
Or a rich
bench-
uncle, I'm not sure which.
Yeah, well, they haven't done anything. I throw a question out, what have they done nice? Tell me one nice thing they've done for us in 14 years I've been here. None. Nobody can answer a question. They're now trying to remove the ECL line. And then I'm going to bring it out to the next commissioners meeting where you have the vice mayor saying if we were successful in removing the ECL line, we will then own to the water edge. Not saying that we can keep people off the water edge, but we can keep them off of everything else. So these people are nuts, okay? And if this council is not willing to fight for the people 19th Street South, our land values are going to go into the toilet. So what I'm saying is we've maintained them lots. We put benches on them lots. We fixed the showers on them lots. We fixed the irrigation on them lots. We mowed them lots. We sodded those lots. And now they're going to maintain them. They're maintaining them like they've been maintaining us. We're nuts for letting them do that. Those lots are dedicated to the landowners east of Golf Boulevard. This council has no right to give away any of those rights. I believe your firm wrote something like that 20 years ago.
So we're not giving away any rights that you
Well,
legally have.
we're allowing them to park there.
It's just an interlocal
Let
agreement.
him speak.
Yeah, it's just an interlocal agreement between the two cities on how you're going to address certain things related to those properties. And so, and they're only good for 60 days. I mean, you can terminate it at any 60-day notice. Just like the current one you have, you can terminate it if you want to. So it isn't like you're giving anything up. It's just, you know, there's an understanding as to what each city is going to do and who's going to pay for it and how things are going to be handled, so that there's an understanding between the two cities, so they don't have to come to say, well, what do we do in this situation? What do we do in that situation? Well, it's in writing. You look to that document and you follow that document.
But what I'm saying is we've maintained them for decades, okay?
But there's no legal requirement to maintain it by the city.
There isn't no legal requirement.
Correct.
But we've done it for the benefit of the citizens. All right? Now, when there was a beach or sand reclaim, when Hermine came in, we did a reclamation up at Morgan Park. All right? 6th Street got wiped out, 12th Street got a pretty bad hit, and 18th Street or 1880 Street got so much of a hit. And I'm talking about erosion, all right, where the beach used to come right up to the platform. Miraculously, okay, the state dumped sand in front of Mayor Bloom's house and a number of other houses in Bel Air Shores, but didn't dump a handful of sand at 6th Street, 12th Street, or 18th Street. Now, is that the type of maintenance that we're going to have? We have actually built steps now to get down to the beach at 6th Street.
Same thing.
So they took public sand, is what I'm saying, and put it in front of their houses for barrier purposes.
Who did
Do
that?
you have evidence?
Bel Air Shores. I had pictures, and I sent them to Kelly Levy, and then she just shut me down. And I sent them to the commissioners too. I got tons of pictures of it.
It's still there right now?
No, they graded it out. I have it on the record where Mr. Bloom says, we don't even ask for it. It just appeared. Okay? Although, okay, when they wanted to move the equipment from Indian Rocks Beach up to Bel Air Beach, they made a total fit and said, you're not bringing the equipment up here. So then they had to put stakes out at the ECL line so they could move the equipment. Mr. Vice Meyer said, once we get the ECL line removed, they'll never be able to move their equipment again up there. This is the maintenance these are the nice people that we're talking about. I have it all on tape, okay, and I'll play the tape for you next month.
Lloyd?
Tom, is that something that they could potentially do, remove the ECL line from the state? That doesn't seem possible.
So I have not done any research on that. I know that there's been a public records request for that information, but I have not done any research, so I don't know the answer to your question.
I made the public records request, and I have not received a response. It's on me for not following up, because the state of Florida, by law, should have responded to my email. However, the limited amount of research that I've done, they have every right to petition to have the ECL removed, because it's only created where there's erosion control projects. And for Pinellas County, in the state of Florida, it was very easy to just draw a straight line and form that. But whenever they found out that Bel Air Shore had nothing to give to actually qualify for public sand for the project, I think 2 years is all they're obligated to actually keep that. Now, that being said, if they petition to have the ECL removed, we have every right as a community that also uses that beach to petition to keep the ECL. So that's why I had so much interest in getting the public records. I wanted to know, has anyone reached out? Is something in the works? Is anything going on? Have their attorneys contacted them? Have there been any discussion whatsoever? And the request that I made, Tom read it. It was quite extensive, actually, of what I was asking for. So I will follow up tomorrow to find out where we are on that. If there's no public record whatsoever, well, that's great. That just means they haven't done anything.
Right.
But I want to know if they have, and then I want this council, this city, to actually begin our own petition to keep the ECL. Because if you've got two communities in there, there's friction going on. It will actually come down to the state having to settle it.
Well, I was over at Mike Twitty's office today pulling maps, and the last erosion control line was set in 1988. That was 4 or 5 beach replenishments after that erosion control line, because the first one came in, I think, in 1966. All right? So they took artificial accretion from Indian Rocks Beach and Bel Air Beach, and that's why that ECL line is now shown. I've also had residents come with me, and I'm speaking with the residents who've been here for 75 years. We're saying when that water comes up, or before that first beach renourishment, and that was also said at the Indian Shores meeting that you attended, that water came right up to the seawall. So there was no beach there, all right? And if you go down and talk to other people, even at Morgan Park 20 years ago, there used to be a drop-off there, okay? Kids used to go surfing there until they got the beach renourishments and all that. So they have taken artificial accretion, which stopped the beach renourishment, a Supreme Court case that I've been screaming about to this county, which they finally addressed last year. They've taken artificial accretion and claimed it as their land now. And these are the nice people that we're going to deal with, that are in their local agreement with. Now, we should be fighting that. I have a letter to the DEP, I have a letter to Kelly about, we should be doing a survey right now of how much beach we actually lost from the last beach renourishment. Because if you go out there right now, you can just see how much of the totally migrated down. And they're taking that same. Story, who's the biggest complainer, he's the biggest benefiter because most of the currents go this way. And the sand goes this way. So
That's not their fault.
Yeah.
They're not vacuuming the sand up. And
no,
moving it down.
it's not their fault, but if they don't want us on their beach, then they should have put a jetty up, keeping the sand away from them. All right? And we should have they should have put a jetty up at 19th Street. Then the sand wouldn't have drifted in there. But they've taken that sand unlawfully, according to that Supreme Court ruling. And the county did address that.
I do have one comment on the interlocal as well. There was, I think it was line item G, which looked like a specific cross-off, and that specific cross-off talked about 24-hour pedestrian access. So are we agreeing to removing 24-hour pedestrian access?
No, I don't think that was the case.
Okay.
I don't think that was the case at all.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, in fact, I even addressed their counsel and said, or no, I addressed their attorney and Vice Mayor Story, and they agreed that, yeah, we can't stop you from having access.
Got it. So I must have looked at an
There's
earlier.
no time limit.
I must have looked at an earlier version. Good, thank you.
The other thing we should be looking at is when the Kirkabys divided all this land up, and you look at the parcel maps, it's 20, 21, 22, and all like that. Where did the Kirkabys get the land? Okay, was it when Hillsborough, before Pinellas was formed, because this used to be Hillsborough County? Did they get the parcel of land? Okay, as from what area? Because when you go into the Twitty's maps, they cannot give you a definite line to the west. They can give you a definite line north and south, but they only have they're calling a summary line, which goes to the ECL. So what they did was they taxed Bel Air Shores residents. They tax them for their house, then they tax them out to the ECL at a lower rate because it's non-buildable because of the construction control line. So I said, well, technically, you may be overtaxing these people and prohibiting my beach rights. Because if the land actually ends at the seawall, you don't have the right to tax them to the ECL line.
Correct.
And he says, well, I'm not going to get into that here. But we need to go back and find out where the Kirkabys absorbed that land.
There's a gentleman by the name of Christopher. You ever met him?
What's his last name?
I don't know. But he's kind of long-haired, white-headed. He shows up at all the big C meetings, and he claims that he actually owns that land.
Oh, no, he was at the Bel Air Shores meeting.
That's-
Old gentleman with the
Yeah.
long hair? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if, you know what, and if there's ever a storm that brings in a lot of sand, he's gonna have a bitch.
There's a crazy architect in
Yeah.
town that does that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So shall we bring the ILA back to the next work session?
It's probably not a bad idea.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, any other general business, or does everyone want to go home?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everyone.